drowned out by the screeching of brakes and glass shattering. Cass only had a moment to dive out of the way as a car careened into the cafe through the large windows facing the street. Several glass shards skewered her cheek. Wincing, she rolled across a floor strewn with coffee beans and debris. Struggling to her feet, Cass checked there wasn't any large pieces of glass sticking out from her before she glanced around. Her heart raced as she took in the mangled car that had come to a stop only feet from where they'd been sitting. Nathan had pushed himself into the far corner of the cafe. His eyes were wide, and blood was dripping down his face from a gash on his forehead. "You okay?" Cass called. He nodded, his gaze stuck on the car, disbelieving. Cass tried to speak again, but her mouth was so dry she couldn't get the words out. Her eyes darted around. The place was a bomb site. Tables smashed to pieces, chairs flung to the floor and lying on their side, broken glass everywhere. The other patrons were pulling themselves up, dusting off the glass as they glowered at the vehicle. The barista was pinned between the front of the car and the counter she'd been wiping down, terror in her eyes as blood streamed from her hairline. A middle-aged man in a dark-colored suit rushed to her side, cell phone in one hand as he pressed a napkin to the cut on her forehead. "It's okay, honey," he soothed. "Medics will be here soon." Another man limped towards them, telling the pair he was a nurse. Relief washed over Cass. Her parents, big doomsday preppers, had insisted Cass take basic medical training. After the weekend course, she knew she'd chosen the right career path in journalism instead of becoming a nurse as her parents had wanted. The only thing she'd learned in the first aid course was that she was squeamish. Blood had a way of leaving her woozy if she looked at it for too long. Right now, everyone in the cafe seemed to be covered in glass cuts with blood carving paths as it slipped down their dust-covered faces. Cass tiptoed toward the car that had steam pouring from the hood. The front tires were still spinning inches from the pinned barista. Peering through the shattered windshield, she could barely make out an older woman. It must have been an epileptic fit, or a heart attack, Cass surmised as she pulled open the passenger door. The driver was slumped forward, unconscious, blood oozing from several gashes on her face. No, no, no. Don't let the woman be dead. Taking a deep breath, Cass reached out a trembling hand and brushed away the woman's gray hair that had tumbled out of the braid as she searched for a pulse. After a moment of probing, she withdrew her hand. It was wet and sticky. She squeezed her eyes shut to rid the sensation of the woman's blood seeping into her hand. The sight alone had been enough to turn her stomach. Wiping her hand on her jeans, Cass forced her eyes open. No signs of life. Biting her lip, Cass debated whether CPR would revive the woman. It had been years since her last class, and she didn't want to do more harm than good, such as breaking the woman's ribs. If only she had the sage advice of a 911 operator in her ear to talk her through it. She pulled out her phone. 23% charge left, just enough to make the call. Fingers crossed she'd get through straight away. She pressed 9, followed by 2 ones. Nothing. She scowled and stared at the screen. No signal. There was a rumor that even with the towers down, emergency calls would still get through. She tried again, holding the phone to her ear. She realized the article was nothing more than a well-worded clickbait. Stuffing the useless device back into her pocket, Cass ducked out of the car. "I think she's dead," she announced. Panic swept through her at the finality of the sentence. Cass scanned the gathered crowd for the nurse but couldn't spot him. Finally, she saw him kneeling on the sidewalk, pummeling a man's chest, getting no response. An elderly woman in an oversized coat was standing close by, watching with tears streaming down her face. The couple reminded Cass of her grandparents, and her eyes welled up. What the hell is going on?